So again, I'd just like to welcome you and thank you for joining us. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Peter Edgerton. I'm a centre consultant in the UK. I'm joined by a few colleagues and friends. Firstly, I've got Rob Marshall, who is also a consultant but based purely on ConfigMgr. Yeah, so Rob is one of only, I think, 3 MVPs on Enterprise Client Management in the UK. Is that about right, Rob?
That's correct, yeah. Enterprise Client Management is the program under the MVP program that covers exclusively Configuration Manager. And I've been an MVP for 6 years now.
Okay, cool. We've also got Dave Scambler, who I think should be online with us, who is a System Centre consultant based out of Jersey, I think currently working in London, if that's correct. We have him online. And further to that, we've also got Paul Winstanley, who's also a config manager consultant based out of London, I believe. And he obviously contributes with WMUG and runs his SCCM Mentor website at the same time. Is that right, Paul?
I see Paul Winstanley said that's correct and said hello there in the chat window.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions in prior. We may as well start the ball rolling with these and see where we could go. If I can just ask, if you're not obviously speaking at the time, if you could just mute your mic so we don't get any background interference or anything like that. If you've got a question yourself, then obviously make it known. And you can either use the ask a question or you can shout out. If you've got an answer, unfortunately you can't, as an attendee, put it in the Q&A as an answer, so feel free to shout out with that one. We're going to try and cap it at 10 to 15 minutes per question just to make sure we can get through enough. But again, we'll see how that goes, and I'm going to, depending on what questions we get, obviously we're going to fire out some prizes towards the end as well. We'll follow that up afterwards. Okay, so we've got, I think Peter's on, Peter Cashin. I'll fire this question in. Okay, I think you've seen this, haven't you, Rob? Basically, the question's about in ConfigMgr 2012 R2. In Peter's environment, he's building a new 2012 R2 environment, pretty big environment. So they've got a CAS, 4 primary servers, 85 distribution points, and 15 to 18,000 clients.
Good sizable hierarchy.
Yeah, yep. Good size. So the question that has been raised is around content on the primary servers in the new environment. And if they simply migrate all existing distribution points and don't redistribute any content, then how will the primary servers get the content? Do they need content, and will they simply just contain any content which is distributed in the future?
Okay. Peter, did you mean migrate or upgrade?
Right, so basically what's happened is we had a 2012 SP1 environment and we had a disaster just before Christmas. We went to do the R2 upgrade and whatever happened, the source files were corrupt. So it run through the install, and it was smsprov.moth, which was corrupt. So the provider didn't get created, but replication started within the environment. So basically we had Microsoft on, we were, at one point we were thinking about working through Christmas and, ran to rebuild everything. But Microsoft had done whatever they needed to do and got us back to a working environment, but we couldn't upgrade it to R2 because there was already some of the R2 tables present in the database. So it kind of thought it was already R2. So we just took a decision that we had the time and we had the budget. So we built a totally new environment. So we built a new card. We built 4 new primaries, in each corner of the earth. But obviously our DPs, our 85 DPs are fine. You know, the data is still on them. So obviously we've created shared DPs in the current environment. We haven't migrated any clients yet, but we've got shared DPs. So at one point we've got to, you know, reassign those DPs into the new environment kind of thing.
Well, so I was going to say that if you upgrade those DPs and assign those to one of the primaries, you get one of the features in R2 where it will actually, well, it's in SP1 and RTM actually for 2012, where it'll actually grab the source files off the distribution point and bring them up to the primary site server and then put them into the single instance storage.
Right, okay.
Now in R2, if you do this upgrade, it will also, after it's done the copy up to the primary, it'll delete those files on the distribution point. And I think SP1 just leaves those files there. But that's if you just try a traditional upgrade. I say traditional, I mean from a healthy environment, and you've done a bit of DR there, haven't you? So it's I guess they've brought you back to shape and supportability. So it shouldn't be a problem just to upgrade those into the new hierarchy.
Yes, I mean what we've done, we actually built a new SP1 environment. Migrated all the applications across using the inbuilt tools, all the applications, all the packages, all the task sequences.
Right.
Obviously the DPs are still in play now in SP1, because the SP1 is still in environment. So yeah, we've obviously got them shared across both environments, and you know, I'm guessing that we've got to go from a shared DP across the old and the new environment, and then basically flip it over, reassign it to the new environment. So at that point, we can't deal with losing, you know, getting data deleted on DPs, because you know some of them are on. You may as well be on at the end of a piece of string. Some of the links that's flowing, you know, in the deep parts of Africa and things like that. So there's, you know, our content lives about 300 gig on each DP at the moment.
Well, what it's supposed to do during the process of the upgrade on the DP is it's supposed to copy off those files to one place and then upgrade them into its own into the new sys. If it's going to generate a sys, it might just upgrade the sys in place. Because SP1 to R2, I haven't got that bit figured in my head right now. So yeah, I think I'd have a look at the documentation, because it really is. There's a wealth of info in there on how to do the migration and the options that you've got. And the one that I would point out would be the upgrade. You shouldn't be losing any data on the distribution point, and it won't be recopying it either. And you won't have to pre-stage.
I think the one thing that's just been raised internally. Obviously, there's a lot of, you know, people who, I mean, it's strange, the company where I'm at now, they put someone on a 1 week course and then give them access to the console, you know, that they're an expert then. So you've got lots of people raising issues that, you know, you know, when we do this migration, the content lib on the primaries is going to be empty.
Yeah. So, I guess they could be considered serious concerns, or at least kind of stuff that needs to be mitigated and signed off. I understand why you're asking us the question, I mean, and it is a good one. Yeah.
When I put it on, you know, I've put a few, you know, questions on TechNet, and as people come back, and you know, one of the quotes was, at no point ever does a primary server get data back from a distribution point. What you just said, otherwise there. So.
Okay, let me just go and find some documentation for you. So if you just give me a moment, I'll find something.
Okay, cool.
Peter, Jerry Hampson here. I have a question. If you look at the documentation, the only supported migration is from 2007 to 2012, one of the versions. It's not supported to go from 2012 RTM or SP1 to 2012 R2 via migration. So in other words, sharing the DPs. I don't know if you knew that, but it's not actually supported. And if you look at the documentation, it says that. So my question is really, did you have any bother doing it? Because I want to do it on several sites, but I'd prefer to do a supported method.
Right, so, I mean, the first person who advised me on doing it this way was Kent Agerland. I had a chat with him, and he said it worked. He's done it in production and it worked. I've done a test DP, and it worked fine.
Yeah. I think the problem is people are nervous, even though everyone figures it'll work, but if you get in bother, you're kind of on your own, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, we're stuck between a rock and a hard place, really. I mean, we can try this, or we go and pre-stage, you know, 85 DPs across the world.
Yeah, we can't do that.
So I think we may have to, but I figure we try this first, and and see how we go. I mean, there are people who have said it works. So it's
because I have a customer who I don't know who did the job for them in the first place. I think they did it themselves, and they don't even have 2012 RTM. They have 2012 RC.
Right. Okay.
In production. And I need to somehow do something with this and get it to R2. So the first thing I thought of was, right, probably have to put the binaries for RTM on top of that, because RC may not be recognized even, and then try and do a migration. It's the only way I can think to do it, but it isn't supported.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
And I think, to be honest, I mean, where we are now, there's a lot of things what aren't supported, and you can just go for it.
That's all you can do.
I'd like to stay in a role and base my whole life based out of TechNet and support the configurations, but it just doesn't work that way, does it?
No.
That's the sad way.
No, you get yourself in a hole. You have to try and get out of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to shut up now. That's all I wanted.
Okay.
It was a good point, but I would suggest that he has a look into trying to upgrade those DPs. And Kent's called that out as well. I've just put a couple of links into the chat window about how content can come from migrated, upgraded distribution points back to the primary site server, and it does call it out in there that this happens, and it happens over SMB to the assigned site. So have a little read through there and
we'll do.
See what you can take away there as a soundbite.
Okay, cool. Sorry, Jerry, just to jump back in. I'm just looking at something now which indicates that DPs can be reassigned from 2012 to 2012 R2.
Well,
I'm not talking about being reassigned. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about the source hierarchy business, migrating content between the two. It's a different thing.
All right, no, migrating content, that didn't work for us, so we had to, rather than build a new R2 environment, we had to build a new SP1 environment, migrate the content, and then uplift to R2.
Oh, okay, well that's what I was talking about. So the source hierarchy part did not work for you?
No, we had to build as an SP1, a new SP1 environment, migrate the source content, and uplift to R2.
Did you try it?
No, we didn't, no.
Right, okay.
There was so much else.
I don't see why it won't work, but I don't know anybody who's done it, successfully done it.
This is migrating out of 2012 RTM into R2, is this?
Yeah.
I'm doing it at a customer at the moment. Actually, I'm just
Does it work, Peter? Yeah.
Yeah, it works perfectly. Yeah.
So what the advice you see everywhere is don't do it, and I don't quite understand why.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't initially set the migration. I've kind of been handed that one, but the customer that I'm with, it has weirdly, they had a 2007 environment to manage all the clients, about 4,500 clients, and they had a 2012 RTM environment just managing their servers, about 400-ish, 450 servers, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we've created a new 2012 R2 environment and migrated content from both environments into one effectively.
And did you have any difficulty setting up the source hierarchy with the other 2012, or did it just work?
It just works really. It's the same as I've done any other.
That's what I couldn't figure out why, and I don't see why it's not supported.
I don't know why I didn't try. No.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm putting this job off, but let me just crack on with it.
Yeah,
I'm quite sure I won't be able to do it to RC. I'm fairly sure of that. So if I just run the binaries of the RTM over the top and take it from there, maybe I might have some chance. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Peter. Cheers.
No worries. Okay, so we'll just skip on. I think Peter put another question. Actually, we might as well jump straight onto that one.
Yeah.
So if we can't all see the Q&A, I'll read it through. So you're about to roll out Office 2013 SP1 worldwide. Let me skip through it. Do you want to summarise it for us? If you know it?
So basically, historically, this company is still working. Still working with packages, and everything seems to be done through a task sequence. So he wanted to. When he first brought me in, he wanted someone who had knowledge of the application model, which I do. It's weird because our packager is based in New Zealand, so there's not much chatting with him apart from an hour of the night and an hour of the morning. So basically, we've talked them into doing everything in the application model way. So for Office 2013, we need 13, 14 language packs rolling out as well. Again, traditionally we've done this with a task sequence and there's been no real management over it, it's just been thrown together. So pushing down the route of using deployment types with requirements based on the machine OU, what it was going to. So if the machine's in a Chinese OU, then it runs it gets installed with the Chinese language pack. So we've used the Microsoft way and lumped all the language packs into the same source as the Office 2013. We're using XML files to push the language packs out. So, the Chinese may run, setup XE and point it towards the Chinese config. So we've got 13 deployment types, all looking at the same source directory, which is 4.5 gig. So the first source directory is Office 2013, SP1, and the 13, 14 language packs. Yeah. Now, that's fine. Obviously, it resides on our package source server as 4.5 gig. When a client downloads the data into its cache, it downloads 4.5 gig.
Yeah.
It was obviously picked up, someone raised it that they were just about to redistribute it after changing a command line or whatever else, and ConfigMgr was seeing it as 58 gig. So obviously, after a few minutes of panic, realised that ConfigMgr was seeing each deployment type as a separate source. So obviously 13, 14 times 4.5 gig equates to around 58 gig.
Yeah.
So obviously with single instance storage, we know, it's not going to take, well, we'd hope that it wouldn't take even 4.5 gig on the DPs, because the source is exactly the same. But it still seems to take quite a long time to distribute throughout the network. So the question is, one, why does ConfigMgr see it as that way? And two, is it an issue? I mean, we think that, we know that obviously it performed the calculations for single instance storage before the distribution. But yeah, is it just a red herring, or is it something we need to worry about?
I can add something to this. From site to DP, it should be discarding the files that are already at the destination SIS, single instance storage. So it should not be copying 10 times 4 gigs. You should only be getting the first 4.x gigs going down there.
Yeah.
There is some logic in between there that's recent. Well, if not 2012, from 2007 to 2012, it's going to be 2012 to SP1. But I'd have to dig that out for you. I'd have to go dig in now. But I do recall something about that, so that there's no duplication sent down there and then discarded due to the inefficiency of that piece. That rings a bell. So I'd have to go and dig for that. I can go and dig that if there's got other questions, and I can come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, no problems. If anyone else has got a comment on that one, then feel free to jump in.
Yeah. So I can nail it now.
I take it you actually checked that it was only 4 gig that got there.
To the DPs.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely wasn't 58 gig.
Yeah.
But it didn't work out that it was 4 gig.
You'd probably notice that.
Yeah, we would. It wouldn't get to Africa.
Is it still ongoing? Did you say it's ongoing, or did it just take a long time? Things were sluggish.
No, it's not ongoing. It just took a long time. It just
What from the
4.5 gig is pretty big too.
Yeah.
I mean, but we're a structural design company, so we use all the AutoCAD packages, and some of them are huge.
Yeah.
But this one just seems to take. I mean, from me redistributing to 85 DPs just with a slight change to a command line, it seemed to take a good 8 hours to get out everywhere.
That sounds normal.
You think?
That sounds reasonably normal. Yeah. Yeah. And did you look? Was there anything in distmgr log file to tell you anything different?
I didn't look, to be honest, mate. I didn't look.
I wouldn't be concerned with that. I mean, I don't understand the 58 gig part and why it showed that. Yeah. But something taking 8 hours of that size to get to 85 TPs sounds reasonable to me.
Bear in mind that was only with a change. That was only. So it had already been distributed to all the DPs. I'd just changed one of the command lines, updated the content, and.
Well, there's two things I'd say here. The large size there is because of its unexpanded form, but when it enters the sys, it gets compressed down. So that's something that's explainable. The late delay. I'm not really sure what the delay was for you there, Peter. If it was a delay on the site server finally getting around to saying job done, or heavy network utilization and network engineers complaining.
No, it's literally just the site server. A lot of things sitting in progress.
It's just it could have taken a long time to rationalize all of the DPs that you have, and the single instance storage requirements across them all. What needs to be sent down, maybe. That would have been revealed in the logs, but it's probably slipped by now.
Yeah,
but you could catch it.
I guess one of the part of the question is, when it does those calculations for, what it needs to push out to the DPs, I would expect them to be quite quick. But if it does do a kind of a file compare the hash of each file, what's in the source against all 85 DPs, or.
Well, I don't know if it's doing a validation against each of them. That bit's a bit black boxy to me, unless I had a little peek. Now, I did find something, and I'll put it in the chat window, and it refers to a bit of ConfigMgr 2012 documentation. And if you scroll down, there's a section called Network Bandwidth Considerations for DPs, and the second paragraph calls out something along this lines. The content is copied from the content library on the site server to the content library on the DP. When content source files are updated and the source files have already been distributed, CM retrieves only the new or updated files and then sends them to the DP. So that is implying, but it's not answering directly your question, but it's implying that there's some logic going on there and it's filtering out what doesn't need to be sent down there.
Yeah. Okay.
I've implied something there, but again, read that and see whether or not that helps you.
Okay. So is that the right sort of action for the config manager to say that it does see each deployment type as a separate source, even though it's not?
It's a separate object in the console, so it's going to do its tallies for it, and I guess what you're looking at is the aggregate of all the DTs and what the cost would be. I'm not sure whether or not there's a column that you can click to show you a lower value after it's gone in the sys, perhaps. I haven't got the console up to see what.
Yeah, this was first raised when someone went onto their own DP and looked at the content what was on there and wanted to redistribute it. And there's obviously it's not you can't really add that many columns in there, so it just showed up at the top as 58 gig. But yeah, so I'll have a read through that what you just sent over.
Okay, I hope it helps.
Cool.
Okay, cheers for that one.
Right.
I don't know if David Scambler can speak or not.
Oh, I can, yes.
You can, okay. I know we had a question about bad MIF files, which I think you seemed keen to pick up on. Do you have any info on that? I'm putting you on the spot there.
Yeah, who actually asked the question? I forget who it was.
I think Paul got some information from someone, Paul Winstanley.
Is he able to talk, or?
He's on chat. He's no mic today.
Okay. Yeah, because from what I gathered, they obviously this was using VDI, wasn't it? And one of my questions was how was the client installed on the gold VDI image? Obviously, because there's a certain method to put your client in the image. And that's as far as we've got. He did send across obviously the data loader and some MIF, so unfortunately I had no chance to go through those.
Yeah. He's just typing to see if he's got. So it was a standard push install into a VDI image. And I'm hoping this kind of links into another question that we've got banked, really.
Okay, because when you install the client into obviously a gold image, you have to remove any computer-specific certificates that are installed on the master image.
Exactly, yeah.
So that could be the issue.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the commands that you need to do that, and then we can put them up there because that links to another question.
Okay. I'll dig. I've got the commands here, so I'll dig them out and I'll post them.
Yeah, that'll be great. Yeah.
Because that's the first thing that springs to mind. Obviously, making sure the client's installed correctly. If it is, then obviously then we can look at the data load and MIF to see actually what's wrong, what's missing, or what's incorrect. So if you leave that with me for a couple of minutes, I'll dig out the information for you.
Yeah, no worries. Paul's asking, how about the SMS CFG.ini?
Yeah, I'll include that as well.
Yeah, so I guess really that links in nicely to a question that I had been given, which was around VDI and config manager in a VDI environment. Now, I think a few of us have got some experience of that, so I thought it'd be good to just cover it in case some of you guys may not have. It was around essentially what kind of changes or optimization should we be doing to SCCM or the SCCM client as well when it's going to be used in a VDI environment. I think we've just covered one there in that you need to remove any uniqueness from the client before you put it in the gold image, which David's obviously going to pull out the commands. Can't quite recall those off the top of my head, but he's going to pull out those commands and we'll put it up there. But has anyone else got any other suggestions on how you might want to tweak or tune your config manager environment to support VDI?
Well, I could say that you should increase the client cache size when you install the client on these VDI machines. You're going to be sending down a lot of software to them.
Yeah, I guess to an extent it will depend on what exactly you're going to be doing in that VDI environment. Cause I think
which type, I guess, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's a virtual machine VDI solution or an application one.
Yeah, there you go. Paul concurs. I can speak about a particular job that I did recently, which was a VDI environment, and they were using Res as well. If anyone's familiar with Res or RES, which is essentially a profile management solution. It goes even a little bit deeper than that. But I think this particular customer were trying to spin up applications on the fly using ConfigMgr as the delivery mechanism. So the idea being that Res was managing a virtual desktop. So a user logged in and it presented this user with a shortcut to whatever, application ABC. And at the point at which that user clicked the icon, the process that was supposed to happen was Res, which does integrate with ConfigMgr, should then immediately, it's already aware of the applications, it should immediately create a deployment and basically push the application down to that client. Now that obviously didn't work too well initially.
Okay.
So
what were the weak points there?
the weak points were essentially the delay from getting the application, from getting the deployment created to the machine receiving the deployment, so then the machine checking, basically getting the content and then doing the install. There's obviously a significant delay in that. So I don't know if anyone else has come across that kind of scenario.
Config Manager doesn't sound like the product for that job. Delays are normal.
Yeah.
That's the end of it.
Yeah, it was a slightly awkward scenario, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if you go into a project assuming the Config Manager is going to be real time for you and do things in a real time fashion, you got the wrong product.
Yeah, yeah, that was the sort of conclusion that I came to.
I was brought up with SMS 2003 onwards, and I was taught that it's wheels win wheels, and you just have to have patience. And if you want that hyper-accelerated delivery, you might have to look at some other way of getting it there as part of the VDI solution itself.
Yeah, I think the best workaround, obviously, it wasn't my choice to come up with a whole solution. That was some solution architect or whatever the guy wanted to call himself. The nearest we could come to it was essentially to when the prof was essentially leave deployments open against a particular user, I think it was, yeah, and then at the point of login, Res effectively using some PowerShell commands in a logon script did an immediate check against Config Manager to see if there was any deployments, and there obviously were. So at that point, the consent, I missed a big section out actually, that it was actually, they were app-v applications.
Okay.
And they were using feature block 0, if anyone's familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the
The
nearest
first part of the stream that occurs is block 0. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So at that point it should fire the application and then carry on caching the rest of it in the background so the user can effectively start using it. Yeah, so Paul's throwing a few comments in there because I know he's quite familiar with the VDI environment. So that was the nearest they could come with it, was essentially leaving some deployments open, and then at the point of login it was very quickly downloading it into the cache, and because it was app-v, it was very, very small and quite quick. But still, there were, I think they were still hitting delays of maybe up to a minute, which I think, as Jerry sort of suggested then, is not bad, I guess.
Mm. Paul's pointed out a kind of solution there. He's saying that you should cache the feature block 0 into the master image, and then bake that, and then use that for your VDIs. It's a good idea, but you have a constant turnaround on the gold image then. Whenever there's a ripple in the application space, it has to go into you have to bake it in.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of maintenance to me.
And if you want to put it's a great idea. If you want to put the resources into it, then it's a goer, green light, and it's a way of making the product a little bit faster, zippier. But I'll fall back to what was just said by a colleague here, that a cup of tea, take your time, it'll arrive, kind of product. But you can make it go whiz along, I guess.
Yeah, I think I might have asked you something at the time actually, Rob, what your thoughts were on it. So if anyone's familiar with endpoint protection and the way that delivers updates, it is effectively a pull from the client, a push from the ConfigMgr server, is that correct? Validate that. It works in a slightly different mechanism than the traditional package deployment, in that it's
the agent will check to see whether or not it's got a new DAT file. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, but the mechanism in which it delivers is different. It's much quicker, if I'm correct. I'm just going to try and dig out the article now.
Are you talking about the notification channel that's established permanently? Yeah. When the client, actually, a little bit about that is that the notification channel is when the client restarts or the machine's booted, whatever the service re-enters memory, it'll open up that channel and it'll permanently keep it open to the management point. It's not a channel that is dropped or released. So that's constantly kept a communication open up with the management point, which is where the notification manager component lives. And that's how they have this fast dialogue that you're talking about. And that created a paradigm change in the product, because previous to that it was all push technology. So it was truly wheels within wheels. So yeah, the notification channel is an exception in that it's live communications with the site server, and it's there so that you can tell the clients to update their definitions quicker than their schedule. So you can reach out and get them quickly, or to run a scan cycle. There's a few options for it.
So
you
I
can
think
also
sorry, go on.
I was going to say you can also do a machine policy retrieval, which is handy, which is not part of, completely endpoint related, which is helpful if you want to accelerate deployments or drops to a bunch of machines. Do it against a collection.
Yeah.
Just tell them to get the machine policy retrieval now.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand the reasons why that isn't standard, if you like, because the amount of traffic would be enormous and it would kind of grind. I think I might have asked you at the time if you were becoming more apparent within the product at all for other sections of it, modules maybe.
Well, I can't speak of anything that's on the roadmap.
Sure.
Or anything that's in the pipeline. Couldn't acknowledge or deny it. But no, it's an interesting thing that it came in, but it purely came in because of endpoint protection. So I would imagine, personally, me as a person, that if there was any growth, it would be around in that area still. You pointed out a really good observation there, that if you've got quite a few machines assigned to a site server, then there's going to be a lot of them opening up a communication channel with a management point, and that could have a detrimental effect if you start to widen the usage through that channel. So I guess I'd keep an eye on it.
Yeah. Go. See, David's just been firing up a few messages there. I don't know if you want to just talk through that one quickly, David.
Yeah, it's just reiterating obviously what we said earlier. Removing some client-based stuff, to delete the CFG and also stop services beforehand, and remove any certificate-based stuff that could be in there. I'm not saying this is the cure to the problem.
Sure.
But this is the first thing I would look at.
Yeah, certainly.
If it doesn't fix it, then I'd then look at the myths and see what's causing it.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Has anyone else got any questions they want to throw in at all?
I was just going to mention actually something about that process that David's pointed out there. You put it in the chat window. That when you run it without a site code, it will put the client into an unassigned state, ready to be assigned. And if you go into the control panel and do automatic assignment, it will perform assignment. And stopping the service makes sure that after a period of time, it won't just try to do automatic assignment. So yeah, I just wanted to point that little part out about that mechanism. The reason why you do that.
If I can just jump in with another question, I mean, just really off the back of that, really, auto site assignment, something that's just coming to me head now. Obviously, we've got a new environment which in the near future we're going to be migrating our clients to.
Yeah.
We use our boundaries now for site assignment. If we need to, obviously we can push the new client, the new R2 client to our client PCs, and it would upgrade the client. How do we deal with site assignment? Because obviously our boundaries would be matching in both the old environment and the new environment. Would we need to turn auto site assignment off in the old environment?
Well, I was going to say that all your new clients, you should always use the site code when you install the client itself. You shouldn't use auto anymore.
Okay.
And you could pretty much do away with your assignment boundaries in your new environment. Not necessary. Right. The only thing that you need to keep going on this product is, boundary-wise, is for the content. Because this product is all just about content, really, and the management points and a few of the other roles all just revolve around that, essentially. So, yeah, it's just about maintaining your content boundaries. You could do away with the assignment boundaries and just use the site code when you actually assign the client, when you install the client, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I've just been working on at the moment, actually, this week. So migrating out of an old environment into a new one, and reading the official TechNet stuff. It's recommended in terms of boundaries that you have, boundary groups even, that you have boundary groups for content, and if you want to use site assignment, you have separate boundary groups. That's the recommended method.
Yeah. I didn't mention that, but that's a good point, that you should always separate them. So you should have your content boundaries and your assignment boundaries.
Yeah, so the way I've been doing it is essentially pushing out new clients. We just at the moment managing with push, but we'll probably explore the other options soon. But essentially, as Rob said, by specifying the site code in it and not using auto, so in the new environment, I don't have any site assignment boundary groups at the moment. Once we come to sort of retire the old one, I'll probably start ticking the box and put some site assignment in there as well.
Yeah. So going back to basics, if we're deploying a client in OSD, would that be multiple steps with conditions on them for deploying a client with a specific site?
I'd say yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
so sure. You've got one task sequence, and that task sequence is for run at each of the primary sites, or the clients assigned to the primary sites, and they need to do their magic with the primary that they're using.
Right. So obviously our task sequence run from the CAS now, so we just deploy one task, we've got one step where deploy clients, and then the site, the auto site assignment deal with that.
So these machines, how do you build them at each of the destinations? Is it all unknown, or do you use known computers?
All unknown.
Okay.
Unless the rebuild, yeah, but pretty much all unknown. The one task sequence, one for all kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was just wondering whether or not you could leverage some kind of environment variable there, task sequence environment variable, and a collection variable, sorry.
There
And
must
pass
be some
that
way
down.
of identifying.
Yeah, to do it that way, right? So that you can keep with one step. You could have a look down that route to see if you can squash it down, and apply something there. Especially if you've got R2, there's a little bit more logic in the task sequence now, isn't there? Dynamic variables and stuff like that. So there might be some routes for you to do something. You can bash it down to one step, but I wouldn't. Yeah, you're going to have to have some way to know that that device needs to assign to that site. So you're going to work that out anyway. So.
Cool. So in the gist of it, that site auto assignment is bad.
Well, generally, I think it's something that's not necessary anymore. Because in theory, if it's a closed loop now, isn't it? At the end of the day, when everything's been pushed out, the site's been up, the estate's been fully migrated, upgraded, whatever, client-wise, and things settle down. All of those clients would have come through OSD, so fully managed. And you won't have that many unmanaged devices. You do your discovery, you'd keep banging away at them, getting clients installed. Maybe you do client pushes remotely in small groups, and then eventually you get to the point where some customers switch on automatic client push and just let that soak up anything that hits a network that doesn't have a client on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking bare metal builds and the person who's building it. You can pop up a task sequence variable and just get them to put the site code in. Maybe as an option.
Yeah.
Too complicated.
Literally for some people, mate. Yeah, but entering the password for the task sequence is complicated for some of them.
Yeah, fair enough. You can only work with what you've got.
Yeah.
Well, if you've got specific build areas around the world, they might have specific subnets that you can do identity checks on.
No, I mean a lot of them may even be built at desk. It's different regions, it's totally different. There's no standardization at all in the company, so. Well,
that's certainly a solution. I'll be interested in see what you come up with, and if you want to have a chat with me offline or us about it offline, more than happy to talk about it further.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think we're going to put it off a bit now. So maybe some of that time we can start migrating things, but we've got the time to think about it now. But yeah, it's something to think about. It's only just something I thought about recently.
Okay.
I'll take a look at that article as well, David. Thanks very much.
Yeah, I was going to say Dave Scambler's put an article up there, which should be good.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear you talking about site assignment. I'm at the moment I'm in the middle of a project for one of the banks, which is a migration from 2007 to 2012. But there's a lot of integration with 1E products, and 1E are actually involved. They're using Nomad, Web Wake Up, and Night Watchman, and as you've said, you don't configure site assignment on the boundary group, which I didn't do, and that has caused a problem because apparently 1E Night Watchman requires it. So what's happened is we haven't enabled it, and they're going to finish the migration of the clients. And once we decommission the 2007 site, we have to turn it on so that 1E can do the Night Watchman piece.
Well, that's a very good point. I'll have to take that on board about their product not liking those. Funny enough, I'm actually going to go on 1E training very soon for the whole product suite, so I get to find out a bit more about that.
Well, I didn't realise it was a requirement, but it seems that it is.
We also use Night Watchman, so a nail in the coffin for us, really.
Well, there you go. Yeah. See whether or not they fix it in a hotfix. I know those guys are pretty fast. And
yeah.
Yeah, we've just got a link up from Rick Gates as well. So he's saying the priority of distribution points is determined and managed by a ConfigMgr automatically.
Yeah, just wanted to talk about this for a minute. So we're seeing this issue that, we have basically 6 DP groups defined, and when we deliver a new application, our operations will first assign it to Tier 1 DP group. When that's finished, we'll assign to Tier 2 and Tier 3 and so on and so forth, and it's very managed, right? what's interesting is you take an existing application already distributed out, fully distributed, and you have to do an update. So you say update content. And what's very strange is always in the past with SCCM, well, I should say we're on 2012 R2, but always with 2012 or even previous versions, you can always bank on it would update the DPs that were, at the highest level or best connected or whatever. You'd see those DPs get updated first. They were closest to the top level of the central site, right? But what's weird now is it kind of seems, well, it always will update our secondary servers first, and just kind of a helter-skelter, picking servers without, within the different DP groups, and then eventually the ones we want, at the top level done, because obviously when you do a change, you want to be able to test and validate that it's really working properly. So the people that, manage it, their DPs don't get updated for, several hours. So we opened a case with Microsoft, and, they first, pointed us down this path of this article, which is, you can change it with an SDK, blah, blah, blah. We actually got a VB script from them to change there's a priority setting in WMI, and they had us change it. The default set priority is 200. All the DPs are all set to the number 200, but we changed it to a lower number, and so far we don't have any resolution. So, but it's just an interesting problem that we're working on right now. So that's why I would share it and see if you guys heard anything about this. Or
Rick, I haven't actually heard of this feature causing a problem in the environment. Now, what's happening there is it's determining who's the fastest or most well-connected or most responsive distribution point previously, and then it starts to categorize them based off of that. Now, I don't remember the complete logic flow there, but I'm wondering whether or not you've looked into your networks to find out which are the hot links and which are the slow links, and if that's actually starting to, is that part of the problem?
Yeah, and so it is actually updating the slow links first. So secondary servers are all the slowest links, and then workstation DPs. Network-wise,
the secondaries are far, are they? Further?
They're the farthest out.
The
primary servers are the tier 1 DPs, are the ones in the data center. They're the best connected. And of course, we have to wait several hours for those to update. Whenever you update the OSD boot image or something like that, so the guy who updates that, is chomping at the bit to verify that the boot image is working properly, and has to wait for OSD packages to update.
Yeah, you don't have much choice because update is update. But
always in the past, it always updated our DPs first. We could be testing it in 10 minutes.
So what version of ConfigMgr are you running, Rick?
We're running 2012 R2.
The latest, okay.
Yeah, we upgraded. We started to build a brand new environment with 2012, and then we went to Service Pack 1 and then upgraded to R2.
When you were working with Microsoft, did they tear anything down, or did you guys tear things down and recreate things like boundaries, distribution point groups, and boundary groups?
Absolutely not. That was an interesting conversation to hear you guys talking about going to R2. I mean, we literally upgraded over a weekend to R2. And we've had, it went fine. So.
How much planning did you put in?
We planned a fair amount. We have a staging environment that we, ran R2 in first for approximately a month before we upgraded to production.
Okay, yeah. So, not too much time, but enough to feel it out. And a weekend to get a deployment done.
Nice. I was going to say, you're going to put us
and of course in our testing environment, we only have a couple DPs, so we didn't really see, anything like this.
Sure, yeah. I don't know what Microsoft have said about this. And I guess you might have a case ticket and it's a public ticket. You could give that to us and we could put that in amongst the stuff that we produce at the end of the event. We could at least follow that. So it's very interesting if that is if that's a feature or a bug or by design or such things.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're just saying kind of what they say in the first thing there is that, it's automatically determined. That's what changed with R2. And it's not...
I don't know of any way to switch it off myself.
Well, exactly. It's totally architected differently with R2.
It's interesting they gave you the WMI classes and stuff to play with. Why that's not helped, I'm surprised.
Yep. Yeah, and they're just as baffled. And anyway, it's just an interesting problem we have open right now.
I'm sure they're poring over the code at some point. Trying to trace it back to find out where this leak is, where it's happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you. That was very interesting.
Yeah. I'm sorry we couldn't give you anything. I guess a little bit more definite.
Other than our commiserations, but crack on it. It's a great product.
It was interesting to hear about the guy with the 58 gigabyte application. It's like, we've been there. As soon as you get clever and go, okay, I'm just going to replicate the deployment type 3 or 4 times and just tweak a little thing here, and all of a sudden your package goes from 10 gig to 40 gig, and it's like, I know it's supposed to be used in single instance store, but boy, when you update that package, it takes forever. And it just seems like it's just doing all this checking, there's a bit there, there's a bit there, and it's like all this chatter going on, which...
And I can't imagine that you've... so what is your configuration? Is SQL on local or remote?
Well, we have a CAS, which is has the SQL server on the CAS, and then we have one primary server, and then that's running a separate SQL server. It's actually on a separate box with the primary, and then goes out beyond that to secondary servers. And then so we've got some workstation DPs, but it's like 150 plus distribution points right now worldwide.
And where do you see the workload, the congestion? Is on the CAS or the primary?
It seems to really be between the primary.
Okay. He would be the one that's doing all the rationalizing for the sys to sys. So I'd expect it to be there. If he has all the distribution points,
We didn't have a DP originally on our primary server, and because we have separate DP servers at the same level, at that same site code. Well, we just have one site code because obviously just one primary. We actually added a DP to the primary, but that didn't help. That was through Microsoft's recommendation. You should have a DP on the primary, and that'll help things out. Well, that didn't do a bit of good. We're probably going to go back to removing the DP from the primary because just we manage it through 4 separate DP servers.
Use distribution groups. You can take it out.
Yeah, we have, exactly. Yep. We have distribution. We have 6 different levels, depending upon basically as you move out.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Rick. Yeah.
Have you guys had this call? I just got an email, joined, and I was interested in hearing other people's stories and that kind of thing. Has this been going on for some time, or?
We've set up a couple before now, and we're going to continue doing it, obviously, as long as you guys are interested. So a quick thanks to Jerry's just message that he's leaving. Cheers for that, Jerry.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in. It just seems like Microsoft is not doing as good a job getting information out there. I mean, you can go to TechEd. TechEd's usually a pretty good place, but beyond that, it's hard to.
Yeah, it's always good to speak to people who are in a similar kind of situation and been through the same kind of things. So yeah, it's good to bounce ideas off people always.
Yeah.
There's lots of contractors and consultants on the call, and we hope to have these on a regular basis. And we're hoping not to cover just Configuration Manager, although you could have it. I suppose there's so much you could talk about. It's such a big product.
Sure. Yeah.
You could repeat it, month in, month out. But I believe the plan is to rotate around the system center. Does that interest you guys as well? You'd be interested in that, or just in the Configuration Manager clinics that we will be hosting?
Well, this is Rick. I'd definitely be interested in Operations Manager and actually Orchestrator as well.
Yeah, I think Orchestrator is a big one at the moment, especially in the the config manager area, especially to do with automation. So that's a big one for me. I'm trying to get into.
Cool, yeah, me too actually. Something I'm picking up a bit of now.
Yeah.
We'll start that out. We've got Ops Manager in planning at the moment to do soon, and obviously Orchestrator was kind of next, I guess, after that.
Yeah.
So we'll try and sort that one out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's excellent. So again, I'd just like to thank you all for taking the time out to join us and obviously join in. Your input is valuable to us guys as well as to others that are on the call, so that's really appreciated.
Okay. It's a pleasure attending. Thanks for the questions, everybody.
Yeah, what I'll do as well, just as a small token of our appreciation, because we do get these things from time to time, I'll fire out a few. I've got some Pluralsight subscriptions, 30-day subscriptions, which I'll fire one out to you guys as well just after this. I've got your email addresses, so you can have a look in there as well. I guess there's about Orchestrator I know for a fact, and PowerShell Ops Manager and all sorts in there. So
really enabling. Yeah, really enabling, isn't it? That stuff.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so that just leaves me to again say thanks and keep an eye out either on our website or our Twitter feed, or sign up on the website, and we'll keep these things going.
No worries.
All right, cheers.
Thanks very much, guys. See you now.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.